Today, I'm going to walk you through a common garage door issue I ran into with my LiftMaster opener. The problem looks simple at first. Every time I hit the wall switch, the door will try to start, but then it stops after moving less than an inch. And no matter how many times I tried, it won't travel. For initial troubleshooting, the garage door fails to move. The first thing I checked are the safety sensors at the bottom of the rack. If they are misaligned or blocked, the opener won't run. In my case, I already checked the safety sensors and they're not an issue. They're well aligned and show solid light. That means the problem has to be somewhere else. And since the opener was getting power and trying to start, but the travel adjustment button doesn't even respond, that point out the issue seems to be related to the logic board. And the logic board is the brain of the system. It controls the motor, the sensor, the travel limits, and remotes. If the board isn't working properly, the door cannot run normally, even everything else looks fine. So I opened up the housing and pulled out the logic board. And right away, I see there's a loose connection on the capacitor on the logic board. This could explain everything. One of the capacitor on the board seems to be melted. The solder joint is come loose, and basically there's an open circuit at the cap connection. The capacitor stores and releases energy for the motor control circuit. So if the connection is loose, the motor will try to start, but it won't have enough power to keep going. And in my case, the real problem isn't the sensor or the motor, it was the logic board, and specifically a failed capacitor on the logic board. Today I will replace that capacitor, and not the whole board, and then we'll check if this is working. The capacitor is available on Amazon. The operating voltage is rated 50 volt, and the capacitance value is 1000 microfarad, and the price on Amazon is $4.99. Removing the old capacitor, flip the logic board over on the back side where you can see the two solder pads holding the capacitor in place. Heat one of the pads with your solder iron until the solder melts. Then use a desolder pump or braid to remove the extra solder. Do the same on the other pad. Once both joints are free, gently pull out the old capacitor. Check the markings on the new capacitor. R is 1000 microfarad, and the stripe is on the side marked on the negative leg. Make sure you get the orientation correct or the capacitor won't work. When you install the new capacitor, insert the new capacitor through the hole. Make sure the polarity matches. Push it snug to the board, and then bend the leg slightly outward on the back to hold it in place. And when you solder, place the iron tip so it touches both the pad and the lead at the same time. Feed in just enough solder to form a smooth cone-shaped joint. Inspect the solder joint. They should look shiny and clean, with no bridges to nearby traces. And once you're satisfied, reinstall the logic board into the opener, reconnect all the wires, and reassemble the housing unit. After you install the new capacitor, make sure to measure it with your multimeter. Verify the capacitance value is 1000 microfarads, plus minus 10% tolerance. I have plugged the logic board back into the opener and reconnected all the wiring to the original settings. And next, I have tried to reprogramming the up-down travel. The issue is that the travel limits cannot be stored in the logic board's non-volatile memory, because when I hit the wall switch after programming, the LED flashes more than 8 times, and that error code indicates there is internal electronic failure in the logic board. And in other words, the logic board itself must be replaced. I have already contacted LiftMaster customer support and asked them help with troubleshooting, and I have requested a replacement logic board under warranty. Let's see how they respond. And stay tuned, I'll post part 2 video once the replacement logic board arrives, and I'll walk you through the repair.